4, last operator.
Aye!
Friendly's victorious.
Aye!
Hostiles eliminated.
Yeah. What is up, everybody? I'm Get Flanked, and today we're going to be going over the new operator coming to Rainbow Six Siege and High Calibre, Thorn. Ubisoft was nice enough to give me early access to Thorn, and in this video we're going to be going over her gadget, how it works, how it can be countered, the different interactions it has with other operators. We're also going to be going over her new weapon. That's right, Thorn is bringing a new weapon. I'll be giving you the actual stat lines, showing you some in-game examples of me using it, and giving you my opinion on whether or not I think it is a solid weapon. Getting straight into it now, we're going to go over Thorn's loadout, but first let me remind everybody real quick, please make sure that you are subscribed with notifications on. It helps the channel out a ton. I'm going to be bringing you guys a lot of high caliber content over the next few days as far as different operators that are tweaked, the Outback rework, all that stuff is coming. So if you don't want to miss any of that, please make sure you are subscribed, notifications on. It's greatly appreciated. All right, getting into Thorn's loadout now, and first of all, she's a 2-armor, 2-speed defender. Her unique gadget is called the Razor Bloom Shell. It's a throwable device that sticks to surfaces and propels a set of sharp blades shortly after detecting nearby opponents. It is lethal, I'll go ahead and tell you that, but more on the gadget in just a second. Thorn has two primary options available to her. We're going to focus on the SMG, which is called the UZK-50GI. It's a fully automatic SMG that fires 50 caliber pistol cartridges with force. This is the new weapon that's added this season, and it is a beast, okay? Look at these stat lines. Damage 44, okay? That's a lot of damage for a defender weapon. I want to say that as far as like the full auto SMGs, only Frost's SMG does more than that, and it's 45. Just to give you a comparison, the Spear 308 that Thunderbird has and that Finka has, it does 42 damage per bullet and has a 700 fire rate. So this does more damage than the Spear. And yeah, we're gonna break down those stats more in just a second. But this gun's actually kind of nuts, all right? As far as attachment options on the Uzi, there are no zoomed optics. You do have the traditional hollow, red dot, and reflex available. As far as barrel attachments, everything you would expect there, nothing out of the ordinary. And then as far as the foregrip options, you have vertical and angle grip available. That's very important. I personally feel like both of those grips are going to be viable. There's enough recoil on this weapon to where some people might prefer vertical, but not enough to where you will see some people probably run angled and get away with it. All right, the other primary option is the M870. Not going to spend a bunch of time here. This is the shotgun that Bandit and Jaeger have. I don't see a lot of people using it because of how cool the SMG option is, but still, if you want to play a shotgun, it's there. It's a really good shotgun. We all know the one-shot range is ridiculous with that thing, but yeah, I see most people playing the SMG. Secondary options, you've got the TAC 1911 pistol. That's the pistol that Maverick has, I believe, and then the C75 Auto SMG secondary option. And then as far as her gadget choice, she can choose between deployable shield or barbed wire. Looking at her kit overall here, okay? It's strong. There's a lot of options there. Again, I think that SMG is going to be by far more popular, but because she has that machine pistol secondary, there's the option to bring that shotgun with the machine pistol. I don't see a lot of people doing that. So, you know, you look at her gadget and her kits and stuff there, and she's definitely lacking in sight construction in the sense that, like, in real world applications, I don't think she's going to be able to alter the sight, create rotates. You know, that might hold her back a little bit there, but I think she can overcome that with a strong weapon, set it and forget it gadget that is potentially lethal, and we're going to get into that right now. So let's talk about this Razor Bloom Shell, okay? And I think in describing it, obviously you're seeing gameplay and stuff here of me using it, but as far as like deploying it, think about an Ella Grismont mine. You can, you know, anywhere you can stick an Ella Grismont mine, you can stick this, maybe even a little bit more. It might actually have a little bit smaller hitbox. I'm not sure, but you can definitely hide it in places under stuff. That's all definitely possible, and it sticks to really any surface in the game. When you throw it, you do get an area of effect ring that you can see, and it fills, and once that fills, it is active. So there's a delay between throwing it and when it becomes active, and it's actually pretty substantial, as you can see there. Some of the clips you're going to see throughout this video, I didn't have this setting on, so you might not see that area of effect, but that's just my end. I had a setting off. It's not anything that's messed up with a gadget or anything like that. Now, that area of effect ring appears to be the area that it will proximally detonate, meaning if somebody steps within that area, it will go off if it has line of sight. And then also that appears to be the lethal range as well. From the limited testing I did, it appeared if you're within that ring and it goes off and it has line of sight, you are going to die. Getting into how it can be countered now, a Thatcher EMP will disable it just like it does other electronic gadgets for a period of time, and then it comes back online eventually. You have Twitch that can zap it. You've got IQ that can spot them. It's susceptible to explosives. It can be shot with any gun just by shooting it. One bullet destroys it. And Zero can destroy them with his Argus cams. I think the big thing to understand with this gadget is that as an attacker, if you run into one, you're going to hear a sound cue when it starts going off. You're going to get a visual indicator, not only that it's going off, but what direction it's coming off from. And you have some options in that moment, okay? You can turn around and shoot it. You can keep walking and get out of it. On the screen right now, I'm showing you how I walk through this doorway where there's one of the shells above the door. I'm walking while ADSing as a 2-speed. And I'm able to get out of the damage area without sprinting, without even walking. I keep ADSing the whole time. So again, you have options there. If you only run into one of them, there's a lot of different ways that it can play out. Where I see this gadget being strongest is putting attackers in a position where they have to do something, okay? Similar to a frost mat in a lot of ways. If there's a frost mat under a window, an attacker wants to come into that window, they're gonna have to either use some utility to get rid of that frost mat or jump in and shoot down at the same time, leaving them vulnerable. And I feel like this gadget really does something similar, not as direct. The attacker has more time when jumping into the window to react and do something about it. But it's a similar situation. If you can put one of these shells in a position where you can hear it go off and act off of it, when you do so, generally, you should be finding the attacker in a pretty vulnerable position because they're going to be either like sprinting to try to get away from it or shooting it or, distracted if nothing else. You can get creative with the placement of these as far as shooting out floorboards and setting them below like that. They can still be lethal, like by coming up in the floorboards and destroying anything on that floor. You got to be careful about how far you put them, how deep you bury them. I'm showing you right here on the screen, like I have a hole in the wall right here. I put it right here. I just walk past the hole. I don't receive any damage from this. The shrapnel, it doesn't go through soft walls or anything like that, so keep that in mind. But you can, again, get creative with the placement for sure. All right, let's start talking about this new weapon now. I'll give you my opinion on whether or not I think it's very good, and we'll break down these stats and make some comparisons. I think maybe the best way I can talk about this weapon and explain it to you without you using it is compare it to other weapons in the game, okay? So first of all, I do think this is going to be a very, very usable weapon, 100%. It's not a fire rate king. 700 fire rate isn't a ton, but it's not low either. Let's compare it to the UMP first. The UMP does 38 damage per bullet, so that's less damage per bullet, and it has a 600 fire rate, so that's less fire rate as well. All right. I made the comparison to a spear earlier. All right. The spear that Thunderbird got did less damage per bullet by 2 and had the exact same fire rate. I think that's a pretty good comparison. Okay. But there's actually a gun in the game that has 44 damage per bullet and a 700 fire rate, but it exists on attack. That is the Vector 308 that Lion has, okay? So when you look at the damage model of this Uzi, it is actually the exact same as Lion's V308. Now, maybe not as far as damage fall off and stuff like that, but when we're talking from a max DPS perspective, it has a DPS of 513, which is really high for defender weapons, okay? 513 DPS is really, really good for a defender weapon, and it actually outperforms many of the attacker weapons. Now, where the Uzi lacks is no zoomed optic attachments. That's not a huge deal, but you would like to have a 1.5 on there, surely. And then also the capacity, 22 plus 1 is a little bit lower than your average weapon. So keep that in mind. But all in all, I think this is going to be a very, very solid weapon. I still think that at the end of the day, fire rate is king in Siege. But when you're doing 44 damage per bullet and your fire rate is usable, you're going to be in a good spot. So I think a lot of people are going to like the Uzi. All right, so now let me give you my thoughts overall on Thorn here. I think that she's solid. The fact that she's bringing a new weapon into the game, is going to make a lot of people really excited to try her out and play her, and that's awesome. I think that's the way it should be with new operators all the time. There should be some excitement around them. I don't think that her gadget is necessarily as scary as I first thought it was. Whenever I started messing with it and testing, as an attacker, if one goes off and you keep your cool, you do have a lot of options in how you can deal with it and what you can do. And if a defender isn't right there to act on it going off, then more often than not, as an attacker, I think you're going to set it off. You're going to keep walking. It's going to go off. Maybe the defense is going to know where you are now, but I don't really see it getting a lot of kills. Now, it could play out differently than what I'm seeing right now, but that's my hot take on it. Now, that doesn't mean by any means the gadget is going to be useless. It's a set it and forget it gadget. She can get all three of those out in the prep phase and then go do whatever she wants with that Uzi and wreak havoc. So I could see her being a very strong operator overall. I'm just saying that I don't picture that gadget getting a ton of kills, like even maybe as much kills as a Capcan. I think that a Capcan trap in many ways might be easier to die to as an attacker than what her gadget is. And that might sound strange, but that's just my initial thought. Gadget aside though, with Thorn, you have a defender who's basically bringing the Vector 308 on defense with less recoil and a smaller mag. But anytime you have a defender who's bringing a weapon that can outperform many of the attacker weapons, that defender is going to have the potential to be very, very strong. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you're excited for High Calibre. I think it looks like it's going to be a fun season. I can't wait to play more with Thorn. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.